Welcome back to my channel. I'm here with another Raw and Smackdown review. So like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get to it. We would open up Raw with a Bloodline segment. Roman Reigns would, of course, have to be acknowledged, and then he would have them acknowledge Jimmy and Jay. He would say how without Jim there would be no Bloodline. He would say how the Bloodline has been here forever. He would even give Jacob Fatu some sort of Ula Fala and tell him to acknowledge him, basically. Then, as they was walking out, Jacob Fatu would attack someone named Eric Andre and destroy him. First, Roman would tell him to stop, and then he would let him do it. And then he would have him do it twice. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we have Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez to advance to the Queen of the Ring finals. Io Sky will end up picking up the win. This match was awesome. I really enjoyed this. They really worked well to each other. And I wouldn't mind Io Sky being the Queen of the Ring. I also felt like it would have been nice to see Raquel win. Let me know your thoughts down below. So we see backstage Liv Morgan thanking Roxanne for stepping up to face Charlotte tonight, saying how they should just focus on her. And then she would go to Danhausen and ask to curse Oba Femi. He would demand some stuff. He didn't necessarily say yes, so I guess he won't be. And if I was him, I wouldn't want to do that, because I wouldn't want to have to do Danhausen. Let me know your thoughts deal with Oba Femi. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Adam Pearce backstage talking with Lyra. It seemed like he's giving them a tag shot. She would say she can't wait to tell Bailey, and she would say how she finally thinks that it's going to happen. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. But then he would then LA Knight would come in, and he would he's still upset about losing. He would say how he predicted the whole thing, basically how it was going to work. He would say now Solo's involved. Adam Pearce would say Solo isn't with them last time he checked. So he would say, well, now he just has to do things the only way he knows how, his way. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next we see Chad Gable get an interview by Kathy Kelly. He would say how he's hoping to make amends, and how Rey Mysterio made him realize that he's been wrong about a lot of things. And as he would walk away, he would see Maxine talking with Austin Theory. He would stare down at her. Maybe he'll make amends with Alpha Academy. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we have Chad Gable versus Rusev in a pretty solid match, if you ask me. I really enjoyed the match. Chad Gable will end up picking up the win, with making Rusev tap out. After the match, he would get attacked by Ethan Page, because you already know he was out there with Rusev. Then he would get saved by Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. And then at the end, they would embrace him. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see Roman Reigns and the Usos backstage talking. They thought that he was going to tell Jacob to listen to them when the OTC is not there. He would say he called an audible, because imagine being in Jacob's position, feeling like an outsider in this family. And then he would say, like, why is LA Knight still running his mouth? Maybe he should send a werewolf. Jey Uso would, of course, try and say, let him handle. And Jimmy would step in and say, he'll talk to him. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see LA Knight come out to cut a promo. He would basically talk about how he predicted this whole thing, and how Jay was going, of course, moved on. Then out would come Jimmy to interrupt him, and he would tell him how Solo was not working with them. And then Jay would come out, and he would have asked to be acknowledged. LA Knight, of course, wouldn't. Then they would get into a brawl. Then Jimmy Uso would get involved. Then after they were getting beat down with his chair, out would come Jacob Fatu to deliver the Tonga Death Grip. They would destroy LA Knight, lay him out. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see Jimmy and Jay backstage basically arguing. Jacob would come and say, we tried it both of their ways and they both were trash, so they did it the OTC way. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see Roxanne Perez versus Charlotte Flair. I think this match was pretty good. It was a really solid match. I enjoyed it. Of course, Liv Morgan was getting involved. It seemed like they were Charlotte Flair's hand was kind of hurting. So even when she would pick up the win and tap out Roxanne, she couldn't really get fully into the bridge. Alexa Bliss would end up helping her a little bit after being attacked by Liv Morgan. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we would have Javon Evans come out to cut a promo. He would talk about how he plans to advance in the King of the Ring and win King of the Ring. Then he would get interrupted by returning Logan Paul. He's still injured. Came out with Austin Theory. They would ask him to join the Vision, and he would say no. and then they would say they weren't asking, they're telling him he was, and then it would lead to a match between Javon Evans versus Austin Theory. I think it was going to begin to be a pretty solid match, and then Braun Breaker would hit Javon with this crazy spirit when Javon went for this OG cutter, and then they would start attacking him after, and then the Street Profits would come with a returning Angelo Dawkins taking out the Vision, and apparently it's the Vision versus the Street Profits next week for the tag titles, and Seth Rollins will face Braun Breaker at Night of Champions in a steel cage. Let me know your thoughts on this. Next we would see Roman Reigns backstage, and he was talking with Jacob Fatu and asking him if he got the job done, taking out LA Knight, and he would say yes, and then he would whisper something else to him. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. And in the main event, we would have Obafemi versus Dominic Mysterio. Dom, of course, at first tried to use some strategy, and JD McDonough, of course, was getting involved. Obafemi would end up still beating him. I thought that it could have been a possibility that Brock would come and cost him, but I think that was more likely if it was Braun in this situation. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Then after the match, he would say how he thought that this would be where Brock would show. Then let me know your thoughts on this down below. We had opened up Smackdown with the WWE Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus Gunther, with special guest referee Sami Zayn. I thought this would have main evented, but it didn't. This match was a really epic match, if you ask me. Pretty chaotic. Of course, there was shenanigans with Gunther getting into it with Sami Zayn. He would end up powerbombing him, and then basically Sami Zayn would cost him the match by kicking his hands and letting Cody roll him up and counting 3 like way too fast. Nick Aldis would come out frustrated. Cody didn't even look like that's how he wanted to win. Gunther, of course, was pissed. Let me know, this doesn't even make sense. You picked that as your referee, and then this is how it ends for you. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we have Cody Rhodes come after arguing backstage with Gunther, Sami Zayn. He would come back and say, restart the match. And then Gunther would attack Sami backstage, and then they would restart the match. And the match didn't get in to go too long because Sami Zayn would come right out and making it into disqualification. He would attack Gunther, and he would accidentally hit Cody with the title belt. This has to lead to a triple threat, hopefully at Night of Champions. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Jade Cargill and her group backstage talking about Tiffany Stratton, and she would challenge Tiffany for the U.S. title, I think, at Night of Champions. I won't be surprised if it ends up being on Smackdown, but maybe it'll finally get on a PLE. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, Gunther was backstage arguing with Nick Aldis, saying that he's been screwed by him, basically, but really, it's your fault you picked the referee. And then he would say he wants a match at Night of Champions, get it done. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see Solo backstage, and Jacob Fatu would approach him, and he would say he was here to make sure that nobody gets involved in Jay's match. And then the MFTs would come right before their tag match, and they would say how they think Solo should stay behind because they don't know who will follow him out to the ring. Let me know your thoughts down below. Damian Priest and R-Truth versus MFT for the Tag Team Championship. They would end up picking up the win, with Solo Sikoa basically costing MFTs the match. R-Truth would roll up Tama Tonga. Solo Sikoa was told to stay in the back, and he didn't, and he tried to get involved and cost them the match. Then after the match, they would look him, stare down him, and then they would just walk away without him. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Sami Zayn backstage talking to Johnny Gargano, and then here would come Nick Aldis, and they would get into it. And Sami would say how he didn't ask for none of this, and how Cody should be the one thanking him. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Jey Uso backstage talking about how he's going to win the King of the Ring. Then he would come Javon. Javon would say how he's a big fan. He's been a fan since they were wearing face paint. Then he would call him Unc, and Jey Uso kind of got upset about that. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we have Ricky Sings versus Carmelo Hayes to see who will become the #1 contender and face Trick Williams at Night of Champions for the United States Championship. Ricky Saints will end up picking up the win, beating Carmelo. I kind of wanted it to end like a no contest and hopefully get a triple threat at Night of Champions. I really want to see that. I don't know if you would call it a clean win or not, because he didn't technically expose the turnbuckle. It was technically Carmelo Hayes, and inadvertently when he got pulled back, and Ricky would kind of use it, but I don't know if he meant to use it, and he would end up picking up the win. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Cody Rhodes backstage talking to Nick Aldis, and he would say there is only one solution. He wants to beat them both in a triple threat at Night of Champions, and it would be made official. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. Next, Charlotte Flair would be backstage talking with Kathy Kelly about the Queen of the Ring and how the hunger has never stopped, and she is the queen then, now, and forever without the crown or what. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Danhausen backstage appearing to be doing some experiment with The Miz and Kid Wilson. Seems like he's controlling them, making them say things. Then Los Garza would come and basically have a problem with him because the Knicks won. And then Matt Cardona would come and to have it back. And he would say, if you got a problem with Danhausen, you got a problem with him. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see R-Truth backstage, and Finn Balor would come to talk to him to congratulate him. And then, R-Truth, crazy, talking about him and the Judgment Day and stuff. Damian Priest would come and say he's not celebrating with nobody he doesn't trust. And R-Truth thought he was talking about him. He was confused. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we have Javon Evans versus Jey Uso to get to the King of the Ring finals. And man, this match was awesome. It was really awesome. I really enjoyed this match between these two. Jey Uso ended up picking up the win. I know a lot of people ain't gonna like that, ain't gonna be happy, but I'm personally not upset. I would have also loved to see Javon versus Oba, and I definitely don't think that would have been a squash match because we know Javon can take Oba to his limit. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. And then as Jacob was watching, we would see Solo come and he would say how how Roman sent him to get in his head and screw up things for his family. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Next, we see Tiffany Stratton talking how she accepts this match versus Jade Cargill. And then Chelsea would still come and try to be her friend. And Tiffany would say how she doesn't need her. She could do this all on her own. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we have Fatal Influence talking backstage about how everybody knows that they had them right where the attach hands right where they wanted them and excuse me, JC would say how she's going to demand a match against Paige next week. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we see Jey Uso backstage talking with Cody Rhodes, and he would say how one more to go, and then he'll be facing Cody, and Cody would tell him not to forget about Owen, and remember, he's easy to find. And then he would encounter Sami Zayn. They would ask how each other is doing, and Sami would say he doesn't think he's facing Cody if he wins. He thinks he's facing Sami, and he said, what do they do when that happens? Jay says he'll just have to do what they have to do. And Sami would tell him to say hello to the family. Let me know your thoughts down below. Next, we would see Charlotte Flair getting ready for her match against Liv Morgan in the Queen of the Ring finals, and she would encounter Jade Cargill, and they would talk about how if it wasn't for her friends, she wouldn't be in the tournament. She wouldn't be there, and then they would attack her knee. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. In the main event, we had Charlotte Flair versus Liv Morgan. Of course, Liv Morgan would target the knee throughout the whole match. She ended up picking up the victory using the Boston Crab, I think they were calling it, and she is advancing. I mean, this really doesn't make any sense. The Women's World Champion shouldn't be in the Queen of the Ring tournament in the first place, and then yet making it to the finals. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Overall, I thought this Smackdown was really okay episode. I give it a 6 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts on this. Till next time, like, comment, and subscribe.